Okay, so thanks for joining. Today's Tuesday, June 23rd, 6:30 p.m. And today's workshop, it is uh, how to play Monopoly using real real estate, right? Because that's what us here in the real estate business, that's what we're about is doing this playing Monopoly with real estate. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over exactly some strategies that I've seen done and that I've personally done in the past as far as building wealth through real estate. And so I'm excited to share this with you. This is the first workshop actually that I've done on this topic specifically. I've taught some real estate agents before on some basics of this, but not in depth. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen, and that way we could get started. At any time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. And give me a second. There's somebody on that just texted me saying that they're not in, but everybody else is in, right? Can I get a yes, or everyone can hear? Good. Rudy says yes. Okay, cool. Let me tell her to reach out. Hold on. Okay, so here we go. So you guys can see my screen here. All right, so first, I'll just share with you a little bit about myself. 18 years in the real estate business. I have 14 tenants right now paying me rent on a monthly basis. First time I invested in real estate was 2005. I wholesaled the deal, made $35,000 profit. Full-time real estate broker, commercial and residential. I also am a property manager, and I run a sales office with 20 real estate agents. Over the years, we've given $75,000 to kids locally here, and the biggest deal I ever transacted was over $11 million. So that's a little bit of background as far as the investment side of things. So with that being said, let's talk about why become a real estate investor and really what it takes, okay? So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a screenshot from a trusted attorney. Him and I were going back and forth. I actually met him maybe 15 years ago, and his whole thing is estate planning. So he sees a lot of people with a lot of money that come to him to protect their estate, right? And it was interesting because when we met, he told me that there's only a couple ways that you become wealthy. And he basically broke it down and said, hey, look, there's two ways to become wealthy. One is owning a business or owning real estate. And I thought about it when he said that in person, and I was kind of blown away because I'm thinking that's the only two ways that you become wealthy. But anyone who I know who's wealthy, it's either through real estate or they own a business, you know, whatever type of business, whether it's a tortilla shop, whether it's, you know, a retail shopping center, a coffee shop, whatever it is that they own, it's a business that's producing, you know, monthly revenues for them. And they really, let's say, don't have to work. Some of them still do, but some of them, they just have that just pushing out income every month. So I asked him, I said, hey, what's that thing you told me? The only two ways to become wealthy is owning a business or real estate. He said, correct, unless you get lucky and to win the lottery, marry into a rich family or inherit it. So that's it. You know, you own a business or you own real estate. So originally, this one was when I was teaching some real estate agents. I said, hey, look it, working hard is a fallacy. So a lot of people say, hey, in order to get rich, you just have to work really, really hard, you know, and then you get rich. Well, I've tried that. me as a real estate agent, 18 years, I worked really, really hard for many years. I had good income. Don't get me wrong. You make good money, but you don't become rich, okay? You just have good income. So the key is the income you make, you reinvest that income, and then that's how you grow your wealth and retire, okay? So unfortunately, when I first started, nobody really taught me that. They just said, hey, just work really hard and good things will happen. But I wasn't reinvesting that income that I made, okay? So a couple must-haves before I go into the actual methods and some examples on how to do it. But some must-haves, okay? So if you want to grow your wealth, you should live below your means, okay? Nothing extravagant. You should be able to qualify for a loan. So 2 years of tax returns where you're showing that you make money. Should have patience because it takes patience to make money. And then you should have discipline. So I think with these qualities here, you should be able to do something. Now, what we're going to get into is we're going to get into the method. Before that, let's talk about, I guess, just look at a quick reason, again, why you should own real estate. The Union Tribune came out with this article last year. San Diego rent hits all-time high of $1,960 a month. And so that's like the median rent in San Diego, right? So $1,960, that's almost $2,000 a month. I remember when rents for a 2-bedroom house were like $1,200. So the reason why you should own real estate, especially in San Diego, is because rents are climbing. They have been climbing. They're not going to go back down. Now, what I'm going to share with you guys today is a method that a lot of people use. And the funny part is the way I found out about this method was after I had already been using it. Somebody asked me one time, they go, hey, how did you, pick up your properties? And I just explained to them, I said, I buy them, I rehab them, I rent them out. And then from there, I just take out my money, I refinance the deal. And then I just do it again and again. And they go, oh, that's the BRRRR method. I go, the BRRRR method, what's that? And then they go, they gave me this acronym and what each of them meant. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that's a thing. And they go, yeah, that's a thing. So I was doing this before I even found out about the BRRRR method. And it was funny because I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, it works, right? So I'm going to give you an example on this, but at the same time, in case anybody wants it, there's a cool article that you could read where it goes into a very detailed explanation of how it works when you buy and use the method, okay? So there's an article in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over an example of how it works, okay? So this method right now, it's for, let's say, real estate investors, but there's a lot of you that say, well, how am I going to, save up money for a down payment or whatever? Well, a lot of you already own real estate that you could take advantage of, and you could start your investment career. Others of you, like myself, I didn't own any real estate where I lived, like the home that I lived in. So I started this method strictly as an investor, okay? So the first B stands for buy, or the first letter stands for buy. So your first investment home, you put down usually 20 to 25%. So the beauty about real estate compared to stock, if you wanted to buy $400,000 worth of stock, you need $400,000 to put down, and then you start earning income on that. Compared to real estate, if you want to buy a $400,000 property, you don't need $400,000. You just need 20% down. In this case, $80,000 down on a $400,000 property. So that's the difference between stock and real estate. Real estate, you can leverage your purchase. Stocks and other types of investments, you can't. You need the full amount. Okay. So in this example, you buy a $400,000 home. You put $80,000 down, 20%. and then the loan amount is 320. Okay. The next thing is you rehab the property. So you fix it up good enough to get about 90% of the top rent in the area. Meaning you don't want to over fix up or rehab your property to the point where you spent too much money and yeah, you're getting a little bit more money as far as rent, but you don't need that much. So an example, if the top market rent in an area is $2,200, if you completely remodel the place, it's okay to do a less expensive job and just charge $1,980. That's 90% of that amount. So anyways, when you buy it for 400, you fix it up or rehab it for 20 grand, okay? Now you're 420,000 into the deal. Now rent. So in this example, the rent is 1980 and the monthly payment is 1975. So you're saying, wow, great, you know, I'm gonna make $5 a month. So that's not the end goal. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys the end goal, but at first, when you start using this method, you'll notice that you're not gonna be killing it as far as cash flow. Got it? So the total invested so far is 420. Now the market value, because you bought a fixer, is now 475. That's the market value. Now with traditional BRRRR methods, they tell you, hey, look, try to buy 75%, buy and invest 75% maximum of the market value. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to differentiate the BRRRR method here in San Diego or in California, places like San Diego, and other places like the Midwest, the East Coast, where it's a lot cheaper, the South. Over there, those areas, you could do the BRRRR method constantly, meaning you could do this, like you could pick up a house every few months. The way I'm showing you right here, this is more like San Diego. This is more like reality. This isn't like some pie in the sky Midwest where the houses are 100 grand. What I'm doing is like, no, this is like reality. These houses are values right around 400,000 or 500,000. Okay. Okay. So you rent it out. You're making, you know, $5 profit a month gross. You invested total of 420,000. The market value is 475. Now your loan balance is 320,000. Okay. Now depends when you buy too. If you're buying in an up market, obviously great. If you're not, it's going to take a little bit longer. So what I'm saying is, hey, you hold it for 5 years. The next step, you let 5 years pass. You don't do nothing. You're a landlord for 5 years. The property appreciates 3% per year. And again, I'm going very conservative. I'm not trying to, you know, throw some crazy numbers out there. So at the end of 5 years, the value of the home is $550,000. Okay. That's the value. That's just how it works, right? Appreciation and inflation. That's how it works. Now, the cool part is, after 5 years, your loan balance is $287. So you pay down somewhere around $33,000, okay? Because you start off at a 320 loan balance. Now you go to the next step, which is step number 3. You refinance. So after 5 years, you're like, okay, well, I got some equity now, right? Because my property's worth $550. My balance is $287. I have equity in the home of $263,000. So that means if you sold the property, you would get somewhere around $250,000 in your pocket at that point. But you don't want to sell, right? Because we're practicing holding real estate long term. So when I say refinance, what that means is you're getting a new loan. So your old loan of $287, you're paying it off, and then you're getting a new loan from the bank in the amount of $375,000. So now you're increasing your loan amount that you owe the bank. So you went from 287 to 375. So that's a cash out refinance. Okay, that's what it's called. Or sorry, no, this number is wrong. I think this number is actually 412, 500. Okay, So you're increasing your loan balance from 287 to 412. Now, what does a cash out refinance means? That means that you're paying off your 287 loan, and your new loan's 412,500. So minus your existing loan. That means that after you refinance, you'll put $130,000 in your pocket. Okay, and I'm including your refinance. Every time you refinance, it costs money. So 130 minus 7. So you'll have 125, in your pocket to use on your next deal. So imagine you bought this home for 400. You put 20,000 into it. You waited 5 years. You paid down your loan balance and all that. You did a refinance, and now you have $125,000. So the bank actually gives you all your money back. They give you your $80,000 that you use as a down payment, and they give you a $20,000 fix-up cost. So, and they give you an extra $25,000. Okay, so far, that's the first property the first step in the BRRRR method. Does everybody get how that works? And kind of what we did, we bought a property, fixed it up, we rented it out, we went to a bank and we said, hey, Wells Fargo, we want all the money back that I just put into this house, and I still own the house. So I want all that money back that I invested into a property, because I'm gonna go buy another house with the same money. So literally, you could buy several houses with the same initial money you started with. Okay. Does everybody get that so far? Any questions? If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and then that way I know to answer them. Okay. And actually, on my screen, I'm not seeing the chat box. Okay, here we are. Let me just check. Makes sense so far. Cool, thanks. All right, got it. All right, so now I'm gonna give you a real life example. So the example I'm about to give you, I bought many homes throughout my career and as a real estate professional and investor. I'm gonna share with you the first 3 that I decided to keep. Because there's been several that I just, sold, didn't keep. And that way you guys have an idea of how it works in real life. I have a question, there's somebody that has a question, Lisette, she's asking, I have a question. It's my very first property and I don't have the large credit amount. What do you recommend? So do you, are you saying that you're gonna buy your first property, or you already own your first property? And you can unmute yourself if you like, or you could just do it in the chat box.
Okay. Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Well, I already have a house, and but I want, like, for example, it's in Mexico, so it's different over here, of course. So I don't have, of course, I just started because I just moved, like, the credit, and like, what you recommend if I don't have like that kind of amount of the credit, like 200,000, whatever.
Yeah, are you looking to buy here in the US or continue buying in Mexico with that first property that you have?
Well, both actually. Like, I want to buy in both.
Gotcha. So I think with this method that we're discussing, as far as the BRRRR method, you could probably do it over there. I don't know how the banks work over there. I don't know what type of percentages they'll allow you to basically borrow against your own property. So I think you kind of have to figure out, okay, do I want to continue buying over there through their system, or do I want to buy in the US? And at that point, then you would, either save up money to buy in the US, or you would sell your property and use in Mexico and use that money in the US in order to buy over here. So I think that's a great question, because a lot of us as investors, first-time investors, or even experienced investors, that always comes up. Hey, where should I invest? What area? And then, so that's like the first step. And sometimes it's San Diego, sometimes not San Diego, because San Diego's too expensive. Some people say, I want to buy in the Midwest. Just like myself, I looked at properties in Arizona, I looked at properties in Nevada, the Midwest, St. Louis, Louisville, and that's, I think, the first step as an investor. You have to really figure out, okay, where do I want to own real estate? I hope, I know it didn't answer all your question, but I think it could get you thinking a little bit of where exactly is it that you want to own real estate, and take it from there. So, all right, so now I'm going to give you an example, okay? So this is the first 3 homes that I purchased. I bought them during the time that the real estate market was low. I rode a wave up, okay? Now, the example I gave you prior, that was just buying it like in a normal market. So here we go. So the first property that I bought, it was a little beat up house for $200,000. Now, sounds low, but during that time, for a fixed up property, it was worth $280 fixed up. So, but anyways, it had a bad tenant didn't want to leave, had like attorneys involved and everything. So it was like an ugly deal. Bought it for $200. I put $30,000 into it fixing up. Now, let's look at the financing, because this is the part that a lot of us really don't understand, okay? If you could figure out the financing and how it works, you could do really good, okay? So 200 plus 30,000, all in, I'm into the deal, 230,000. Now, the value is only 280 fixed up. So really what I did was I just earned 50,000 of sweat equity in there, right? And so anyways, when I bought this house for 200, I put $50,000 down. So I already had 50,000. So remember that number, because we're going to see it a little bit down the road. So I put 50,000 of my own money plus 30,000 fixed up. So I had $80,000 of my own money that I put into this house. The loan was 150 that I got. So my total investment was 80 grand. I'm in it. Now the cool part is 80,000 total investment plus the loan 230. So I'm in it for 230, and the value is 288,000 at that point, right? I hold on to this property for 2 years. After 2 years, prices were going up. It went up another 50,000. It went from 280 to 330. Now we have the value at 330,000 after 2 years. I refinanced after 2 years, right, at 70% loan to value. So that's $231,000 loan to value. So what that means is this: the bank will loan you money against your own home up to a certain amount, and that amount is 70% of the actual value of 330. So that amount is 231. So the bank said, hey, we'll give you a 231 loan. So I said, cool. I took the 231 loan. I paid off my existing loan of 150. Now what's in my pocket? In my pocket is $81,000. I just took out of this property the original 80,000 that I originally put into it. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now I still own that property, and then I have $81,000 to go shopping for the second house. So I found house number 2, bought it for $235. I put $40,000 into that one, and I'm all into it for $275. So my down payment on that one was $46,000. The total loan amount was $184. Right, I put down 20% down on this property, so the bank lent me $184, and then so now my total investment $86,000. So since I got 81, so that's actually $5,000 out of pocket. So now I'm $5,000 out of my own pocket to buy home number 2. Got it? Cool. Now the value of this home is $330,000. So again, I bought it for 235. I was all into it for 275. After I fixed it up, the value is 330. So it's not like crazy numbers, right? Like I'm not killing it as far as on the purchase. Now I held it for 2 more years, and at the end of 2 years, now it's worth 370. So it went up another 40,000 in value after 2 years. So at that point, I found the bank that did a 75% loan to value refinance. So what that means is they'll lend me 75% of that 370. So that means that I had a $180,000 loan to pay off. 75% of 370, that's 277. So after paying fees and everything, they basically handed me a check of 90,000, and then they said, "Here, Voltaire, go house shopping with this 90,000." So now I'm taking back my original money, my 80,000 that I put into it on the house number 1. I'm taking my original 80 plus another 10, so now I have $90,000, and basically I'm going house shopping for house number 3. Got it? House number 3, I buy it for 239. I put 30,000 into it. Now I'm at 269. Down payment 47,000. Loan amount 191. My total investment into this one is $77,000. So that's zero out of my pocket, really, because the bank just cut me a check from house number 2 for 90 grand. So now the value of this home after I fixed it up is 340. So now I got 3 houses, all for 1 down payment. And that original down payment was how much? $80,000. Does that make sense? So 3 houses for 80,000 sounds like a really good deal to me. So now what I did was I just ran kind of the numbers as of today. With just these 3 homes as of today, the total equity, meaning how much money I have in the property that I could take out at any point, is $1,095,000. Okay. Now, $1 million, let's say, in my pocket, all it took was 80 grand to turn 80,000 into over $1 million. Now, I wasn't making the mortgage payments. The tenants were making the mortgage payments. Tenants were paying down the loans that I had against the property that would allow me to later on refinance, pull that money out. And of course, I got lucky with inflation, appreciation. This is during the time that a lot of people were saying, no, prices are too high, it's going to crash again. You know, all the same stuff that we hear over and over. Which year did you buy these homes? Good question. I started the first one in 2011. Okay, and these examples. Great question. 2011, 2011, 12, somewhere around there. Now, let's get into the whole thing with Monopoly, right? So on the Monopoly board, you got your little houses, and then sometimes you could change those little houses into hotels. So now, if I wanted to, okay, I could trade these 3 homes. Trade is another word for sell. I could sell these 3 homes, and I could basically exchange them for a hotel, or in this case, a 10-unit building that's worth $2 million, an apartment complex. So by putting 50% down. So I could put literally this 3 homes, trade them to get 10-unit complex that's worth $2 million. And I just put this entire amount in. It's called a 1031 exchange. It's called an exchange. So I'm going to show you this 10-unit complex I'm talking about. That way you guys have an idea of, you know, how real life Monopoly works. So now this building right here that I'm showing you, 10 units. By the way, these houses and this complex aren't in the best area as far as like what people would think that they want, but hey, they make really good money, right? So it doesn't matter. So this is 10 units right here. You know, most of them are 2 bedrooms. As you can see, you know, they're not the prettiest or whatever, but if I were to let's say, trade these 3 houses for 10 units, now you're playing Monopoly. And if we look at the numbers, let's see if it pencils out. Those 10 units produce monthly income of $13,000, almost 14,000, right? 13,960. The total monthly payment after putting down $1 million would be $7,410 monthly. So how much is the gross profit that I would put in my pocket every month? $6,500 a month. Now, can you retire with $6,500 in your pocket every month? It depends, I guess, on your lifestyle, right? Some people can, some people can't. But that's to give you an example on those first 3 deals. I don't want to bore everyone and just go over every single deal. But what questions do you have right now? Because what I want to do after this is I wanted to share with you guys just like some examples from some people who did this on accident too, and also did it without they did it without being an investor first. They use their homes to do it first. A question from Anthony: is it difficult to get a tenant to move in a home, specifically in San Diego? San Diego is one of the best markets, one of the easiest markets to find a tenant for a home. So usually whenever we put a home up for rent, a unit up for rent, around this time towards the end of the month, everyone's starting to move. Everybody wants a place to move by July 1st or whatever. And we usually have no problems whatsoever in finding a tenant. And we have multiple applications. So the last 2 properties that I rented out, each of them were 2 bedrooms in the hood. And I was getting applications from people who were making anywhere between like $110,000 to $180,000 a year in the hood. So these are good tenants, quality tenants that have the income to make, the rent. So it's not difficult at all. San Diego has one of the best markets. And that's what, as an investor, when you start to ask yourself, where do I want to invest? Some people want to invest in Nevada. Some people want to invest in Arizona, Texas. Well, how long does it take to rent a place over there? You got to do your research. It might take a long time. San Diego, it rents, properties rent like hotcakes in San Diego. So the rental part is pretty easy, I think. You could always hire a property manager as well to help you with that. So what I want to do, and again, this class isn't going to be a long class. It's going to be a short class. It's just like, hey, check this out. These are a couple of examples. This is the method that you could use, and this is how to do it. So I don't want to draw it out. We don't need to. You can ask whatever questions, but I'm going to give you an example of a buddy of mine. He's a plumber. So it's not like he kills it. He has a regular job. He works for a company. He first bought his house in 2013 for $223 in the hood, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. He used a first-time buyer program, $7,800 down. Okay. The example I just went over with me, that was an investor. I was an investor, right? $80,000, for down payment to fix up. This guy wasn't. He had $7,800 down payment. His monthly payment was $1,250. He waited 4 years to refinance. He refinanced in 2017. He got a new loan amount of $253, a new monthly payment of about $1,600. He ended up renting it out for $2,200. So now he's positive $600 a month. He used that refinance right here when he refinanced and got a new loan for $253. He used that money to go buy his second house. His second house, he bought it in 2017 for $435 over there in Encano, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, FHA. He put $15,000 down. Now, where did he get these $15,000? He got this $15,000 from the original home that he refinanced. So again, he's using the same $7,800. Does that make sense? So he pulled out money from his first house, put as a down payment on his second house. Now his next house, his second house, it has a $2,800 monthly payment. He lived in there for 2 years. Then he found house number 3, which is where he really wanted to live, closer to his best friend, in Lemon Grove. He bought this house for $537,000, okay, last year. 4-bedroom, 3-bath. He put down $27,000, 5% down conventional. Now, where did he get his $27,000? Well, when he refinanced his first house, okay, they gave him a little bit over $40,000 from this refinance. So basically what he did was he got the money, he put $15,000 into his first house and $27,000 from the second house. So it's not like he's like the best saver in the world. It's not like he like, you know, banking. He's basically used his first house as leverage, pulled out money. He used that money to buy his second house. He used that same money to buy his third house. So imagine the banks are lending first-time buyers or normal people loans with 5% down only. If you remember my example, I had to put down 25% on that first purchase. That's $50,000 that I had to put down payment, 50 grand. If I was living in the homes like this guy is, I'm going in with a lot less down payment, So give me a quick second. Hey, oh yeah, sorry about that. Okay, thanks. See ya. I didn't recognize you. I was like, sorry about that. Duty calls, real estate duties calls. So, all right. So a plumber came into house number 3. Bought house number 3 with the same down payment that he took from house number 1. Okay, when he refinanced, and his new loan amount is $510. His new monthly payment is $3,300. So on house number 1, he's $600 positive. House number 2, he's $100 positive. So when you're looking at these numbers, you're like, man, this is a regular guy. He didn't even know what he was doing. He was just like, oh, I want a bigger home. And then the third time he was like, oh, I want to live next to my best friend. Like he didn't know what he was doing. He was just buying. Okay. Okay. Now, what I did was I took it a step further, and what I did was I did a rent analysis on his properties, on his 3 properties. So if you average out his gross yearly rent, right now he could rent his properties out for $8,100 a month. The value of the property today is $1.4 million. Okay. Now, if you fast forward 25 years to the year 2044, that's the year that he's going to pay, basically have the properties free and clear. If he keeps those 3 properties, doesn't do nothing different, he would make $16,000 a month in rent, free and clear, no mortgage, no nothing. The other part of it too is in 2044, 25 years from now, that's when his payments or his mortgage would be paid off. He would have net worth of $3,050,000 25 years from now. So if he doesn't do one more thing, he could just chill. Now, with that being said, if you're in his situation or just looking at his situation, he should look at his real estate portfolio all the time, once a year, and determine, should I keep it, not do anything? Should I refinance and use, should I refinance for a lower payment? That way I could cash flow a little bit better with the rent. Or should I use the BRRRR method and cash out refinance, pull out money actually, not just lower his rate, but to pull out money and then use that as a down payment on the next home, right? So every year he should look at it, but if he doesn't do anything for the next 25 years, based on future appreciation, future values, he would be worth $3 million. So, I mean, he's not a millionaire yet, but it's in the stars for him, as long as he doesn't, do nothing crazy, but if he wants to make more money, if he wants to turn this $3 million into $6 million or to $9 million or whatever, then guess what? he could start looking at his portfolio every year and start making moves here and there. Okay. So that's the other example that I want to give you is a plumber example. And then that way you guys know that, you know, he got into it without even knowing what he was getting into. Okay. Question from Sanam. As far as renting goes, how much money should we put aside for any issues like plumbing, broken appliances, etc., that the tenant is normally responsible for? Good question on that. So, for example, any of my rentals, I don't touch the rent. So they just stay in the account, you know, because I don't need that money right now because I'm still working. So I use my regular income to live, right? And whatever money the property produces, then I just leave it in the property. However, with that being said, you know, if you had a choice, I would just keep whatever. I mean, if you're buying in San Diego, just keep all of the cash flow in there, you know, because it will need a new roof 10 years from now. It will need plumbing, depending on what type of plumbing in the future, you know, upgrades, little fixes here and there. So I wouldn't personally spend any of that because, again, the whole goal here, Sanam, isn't to cash flow in San Diego. It's hard to make a lot of money and live off of that. You can if you, like that first example I showed you where you go into an apartment complex and start living off of that. So with that being said, the goal is to long-term build wealth into the millions, and then that way you could go ahead and retire off of that. And I'll give you a final example before we leave on how much money you can make from that. Okay. So by the way, if you're going into other states, the reason why you buy in other states and not here is because you want a cash flow. So if you buy in other states, that's more if you're like, let's say 50 or above, 60 or above, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to work that hard anymore. What I want to do is I want to cash flow every month. Then you can go into other states. You can cash flow a lot more than you can in San Diego, but your real estate values won't go as high as they will in San Diego. Okay. All right. Anthony asked, what would be a smarter decision? Are you referring to the plumber? Are you referring to, okay, here we go. What would be a smart decision long-term? Giving extra payments on your current home loan or save that money for a down payment or another home? Good question. What I would do is, shoot, damn, can't go wrong either way. So the smarter thing to do if you want to increase wealth over time is you save up money for another down payment down the road. Now, one thing that you could do, Anthony, because I like where you're headed, is you're thinking about paying your loan faster. So I'll share with you guys a couple of things that you could do to pay off your loan. And instead of 30 years, you could pay it off in 22 to 23 years. Number one is some banks allow you to pay instead of monthly, they allow you to pay every 2 weeks or every week. You have to check with your bank. What I mean by that is this. For example, one of these properties, the mortgage payment is $1,600. Okay, $1,600 a month. So instead of me making $1,600 monthly payments, what I do is I make payments every week of $400. So every week, 400, 400, 400. Why? Because the bank gave me that option. I took it, right? They're not going to give you that option when you first buy a house. They're going to give you that option after you own it. Okay. So what does that do? Every month I'm paying every week instead of every month. Every week I'm paying the principal down less and less and less because I'm making a $400 payment. So what that does is I'm paying it down a lot faster than I did just every month. So if you have the option, you should split up your payment. So instead of a $1,600 payment, try the $400 every week or try the $800 every 2 weeks if your bank lets you. And the way interest works is you're paying the bank interest on whatever it is that the loan balance is showing, whatever they let you borrow. So if you want to pay less interest and save 100 grand over 30 years or over 25 years, then you pay down your principal as fast as you can, meaning every week or every 2 weeks, as opposed to every month. So if you do that method right there, if you just pay it every 2 weeks instead of every month, your term will go from 30 years to about 23 years, believe it or not. So you'll save almost 7 years in interest. You'll save 6 figures in interest if you buy a home in San Diego, just by doing that little tweak. So Anthony, to answer your question, try to see if you can make payments every 2 weeks or every week, so you could save money, pay down your loan faster, and whatever money you save on the side, save that for your next house, for the next down payment. Okay, good question. The next question is, if we get access to funds to put down as a down payment, would you be able to locate the best properties that can produce good income? So we get access to funds to put down as a down payment. Would you be able? Yeah. So your realtor, let's say you hire us as your realtor, we'll definitely be able to help you find the best pockets to purchase in. Right now, the way that the market is super competitive, there isn't enough homes to feed all the buyers out there, all the demand. However, we'll be able to tell you the best areas to purchase properties in order to increase your net worth over time. Okay, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I don't think anybody on here wants to work their 9-to-5 job for the rest of their life. Like I went into my first example, it's not about just making a bunch of money every year. That helps a lot. But it's more about, what are you doing with that money? Even if you don't make a lot of money and you're saving, 20% of your monthly income, and you're not only saving but reinvesting that money, that makes a world of difference. And I've seen people with not that great incomes, but they're just good savers and good reinvestors, and they're able to just pick up properties. So this example that I gave you, like my example, the first 3 properties, I have a ton of clients like that. I have a ton of clients that own a lot more properties than me. I have a ton of clients that own, somewhere around the same as me, a few that own like less than me. And they were just smart about investing their money and not spending it and not living lavishly. And, that's the first main thing that you guys should take away. So what I want to do really quick is, if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to ask me the question before we end this conversation. I was just going to take out the calculator. I hope everybody can see the calculator. So going back to those first 3 properties, that example, right? There is $1 million in there, right? So even if, let's say you say, you know what, because I get this a lot from older people who've owned real estate for a long time, and they're tired of the 3 T's, toilets, tenants, and trash. And they go, you know what, I just want to sell my property. I don't want to worry about toilets, tenants, and trash anymore. So you could easily take the $1 million, you could put it into the stock market that gives you a 5% return dividends, like let's say Verizon stock or Wells Fargo stock, right? That's $50,000, 5%. Okay. So you'll have your $1 million in the stock or whatever investment, you're in 5% return. That's $50,000 a year. Or if we do 50,000 divided by 12, that's $4,100 a month that you could just live off of. Or you could be like my plumber buddy, 25 years from now, let's say he retires from being a plumber, and he's just like, you know what, I like these houses, I'm making good income. Hold on, what's going on here? How come I can't see? Sorry, I don't know what happened there. My mouse is just gone. What the heck? This is weird. All right. So $3 million a year. I'm just gonna do a calculator on my other computer. He could say, hey, you know what, Voltaire? I like these 3 properties. I like making $12,000 a month gross, but I have to deal with the tenants. I have to deal with, just owning real estate. He could take those $3 million, put it into the stock market at 5% rate of return, and he could make $150,000 a year. Okay, so that's 3 million times 5% return. You divide it by 12, and that's 12,500 a month. So he could actually generate. I know this example right here shows $12,000 a month in rental income, but I'm not including the depreciation that you get as a real estate investor. I'm not including any of the tax benefits. So that $12,000 a month is really more. But in this other example that I'm, hold on a second. There we go. Cool. I'm back. In his other example, if he takes those $3 million, he just sells the property, he gets those $3 million, he puts it into a stock that pays a 5% dividend. He's looking at earning $12,000 a year in retirement, and that's just straight in his bank account every single month, without even having to worry about being a landlord, toilets, trash, and tenants. So anyhow, that's the presentation today. I wanted to get you guys to wrap your head around what's possible, what people are really doing. I see it all the time. I've done it myself. So it's not one of those things that, again, I didn't even know what I was doing until someone told me, oh, that's the Burr method. So if I would have known beforehand, I would have done it consciously, and maybe I would have turned out a little bit better. So it's something for you guys to think about. If there's any specific questions, I could answer them now. Just unmute yourself, and I could answer your question. If not, then it was a pleasure spending this time with you guys, and I hope that you guys don't get overwhelmed. Anyone could do it. It starts with your first deal, your first home, whether it's an investment, whether you're living in it. That's where it starts. So I would say that don't be afraid, don't be overwhelmed. Just buy your first property and then just take it from there. The other important part is just knowing the financing, knowing what banks are doing. 75 LTV. Educate yourself on loan to value ratios. As far as the cash out refinance, knowing what interest rates are at. So interest rates right now for investors are right around 4%. Interest rates for people are going to live in their home, 2.5% to 3.25%. So there's all these small things. So you guys just keep coming to these, getting your knowledge up, and then I'm sure it'll all work out. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. If you do, last chance. Thank you, Martha, for joining. You're welcome, Sanam. What if you buy in San Diego and move to another state? That's fine. I actually have a lot of military clients who bought here. I helped them with their first home, and then they moved to other states, and they hired us as property managers. We're just managing their properties for them. So thank you, Rudy, for attending. Thank you, Lisette. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see each other. Take care. Hopefully you guys buy something. Stop being on the sidelines. See ya.
What about me? By me?
Yeah, you, Claudia. I didn't see you. All right, see ya.
All right, bye.